Okay, I'm starting the recording. I'm sorry, I missed out. To recap for those who are now hearing the recording, and what I've done is, I also forgot to turn on our Connect session to teleconference. So I'm not sure if you can actually...
Welcome to the CCC Confer Conference Center. For security verification, please enter your passcode followed by the pound or hash key.
That will all happen automatically. So we're a little behind the 8 ball instead of...
Please hold. Thank you.
45 to turn on these things. Okay, it says connection to the teleconference has failed. Okay, I'm going to try it one more time.
Welcome to the CCC Confer Conference Center. For security verification, please enter your passcode followed by the pound or hash key. Please hold. Thank you. Your passcode is complete. When you hear the tone, you will be the first person to join the meeting. The line will be silent until another person joins.
Okay, very good. Okay, so hopefully got a little bit more going on here. Okay. Okay, so the recording is on, my teleconference sound is on, and that means anyone who comes in after we get started will be able to see things. So let me bring up a screen that I want to share with you. Okay, let's see here. Very good. Now I should be able to share these screens. Okay, it looks like it's blank for just a second. And now we should be able to see my screen. Can you type in the chat box, please, Roz, and tell me what you're seeing? You turned off your iPad because I think your iPad would have a webcam, so you could have used that to actually participate using the audio and video capability. I'm in my, okay, you see my download page. Are you now seeing, I'm sorry, Roz, are you now seeing the Library of Congress documentation? Yes, okay, great. Now I changed this to go to the SlideShare by Jennifer Joyner. And I have found this SlideShare to be superbly helpful. Let me just resize this just a little bit. Okay. Now, in terms of cataloging using RDA, what we have to remember is that the purpose of RDA is to allow users to facilitate creating bibliographic records that are more meaningful for users. That means to group records together according to what matters most to the user. So this slide from Jennifer Joyner's SlideShare, which is referenced several times in your Blackboard content folders, comes back to the heart of the matter. I want my Moby Dick. I want my MTV, okay? And the user wants a copy of Moby Dick. You don't know what the user wants until the user shares that with you. The Moby Dick they may be interested in may be a specific edition of the work. Quite often in literature classes, students are asked to purchase for the class a certain critical edition of a literary work. So they might want a Melville's critical edition with Gore Vidal. I don't know if Gore Vidal did that, but that would be something that a user might want. So until the user shares that with us, we don't know what they intend. It used to be in reference that you would say, people come up to the reference desk and they tell us they want the red book they used last week. Okay. Well, further introduces all these concepts about entities, groups 1, group 2, group 3, and that the core of information seeking activity has to do with finding, identifying, selecting, and obtaining the specific item. So the work, the expression, the manifestation, or the item, this is referred to by the acronym WEMI, W-E-M-I, work, expression, manifestation, item. To some extent, this will be perhaps as important going forward in the library cataloging world as the 8 areas of bibliographic description were. But when you talk about the idea of a work, okay, we're talking about a distinct intellectual or artistic creation. And yes, I have reviewed this already, but it is going to take time for these concepts to sink through. Those of you who have never cataloged don't have to worry, okay? It won't matter to you. So, okay, I got it. But those of us who have cataloged before have to really practice. So besides the work, there is the expression, which is the intellectual or artistic realization of a work. And in the example, the work was by Mozart or Shakespeare, okay? And then the expression for Mozart's via Zauberflöte, and I don't know what that is because I had reading knowledge of German many years ago. It's not very current today. The expression is a 1984 performance of Die Zauberflöte with the Staatskapelle Dresden and Sir Colin Davis conducting. Now, Mozart's complete musical score for Die Zauberflöte is a different expression of that work. And when we talk about a manifestation, we're talking about the physical embodiment of the expression of a work. In 1984, there was a Philips long-playing release of the 1984 performance. In 1991, Philips released a CD of that performance, and in 1994, they also issued a CD of the 1984 performance. I'm sorry, in 1994, they also issued that. So moving along, then we come to item, WEMI, work, expression, manifestation, item. The item is a single exemplar of a manifestation, okay? You could have 2 copies of an item, of a work, of an expression, of a manifestation, but only one of those is an item. Each one of those is an item. So in Joiner's SlideShare, ECU, East Carolina University, has a copy of the 1994 Phillips CD, and Durham County has a copy of the 1994 Phillips CD. So each of those are single examples of a manifestation, okay? Even though they're not the same manifestation, they're each examples of the manifestation. And then this is a slide that was on, I think might have been your week 12 folder. I forget, but I used it as the image for one of your content folders. The work, Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventure in Wonderland. An expression, the English language version, or the German translation by Christian Enzenberger. 2 examples of manifestations of the English expression of the work is a Dial Book edition in 2006. The other is a Chronicle Books 2000 edition. 2 items related to a manifestation are the East Carolina University copy of the Chronicle Books 2000 edition and Duke University's copy of the Chronicle Books 2000 edition. In this case, both of those items are for the same manifestation, but they're still unique items. Okay? So it's going to take some time for this to trickle down and make a difference to library cataloging, but it is very important to your understanding of RDA to understand that it's based on Ferber's WEMI approach to Group 1 entity. Okay? Now, I have a treat for you. I don't think I've shared in this class before. This is, are you seeing this? I think maybe I didn't share it. Can you see this? No. Okay, hold on. Let me make sure to get out of sharing from here. And then, hold on. Okay, I am going to stop sharing. Close the screen for a minute. Okay, I'm going to share again. This time, I'm selecting these images. And Circe. Where's Circe? Oh, here it is. Okay, there we go. And that should work. Now tell me if you see, okay, that's not the right one. Now, can you see the Circe screen now, Ross? Okay, Ross, I'm sorry. Were you able to see the Circe screen now? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I hadn't scrolled down to see your chat message. I apologize. Okay. This is the cataloging module of our Circe staff client. This is known as CIRCE Symphony Workflows. Symphony is the integrated library system that CIRCE provides. It's one of their products. CIRCE Dynex is the name of the company. And they have another product that they kind of inherited when they purchased the Dynex company, and that product is called Horizon. It's also an ILS. But the Symphony platform is a little more widespread. It has more libraries that have purchased or subscribed to that platform. Okay? Within this product, as you know, there are several modules in an integrated library system. We have things like the cataloging module. We have the circulation module. You can see, as I'm going to close this just so you can see. No, I don't want to change. Okay. You have the interlibrary loan module. Okay. You have the reserves module, the serial module. Okay. We have other things such as reports, utilities. Okay. We can do requests. But the main modules that are used by our staff at Palomar College are the cataloging, circulation, reserves, and serial control functions. Okay? We don't really use the ILL system within CIRCE. Okay? We did not purchase the acquisitions module, so it doesn't even appear on this menu of items. In order to begin cataloging, we open up that cataloging module by clicking on this link, and we have all these submenus. Okay. Here we have common tasks, which would be we work with a call number if somebody needs to correct a call number or make a change. Okay. We could do a search and display the title records. We could check the status of an item. I can tell you that most of our catalogers are using either the titles submenu, which allows you to add titles or modify titles, okay? And then they're also using call numbers and items because they add an item to a record, okay, a bibliographic record. And when you select Add Title, that is to create a bibliographic record. When they select Modify Title, it is to make changes to an existing record. Here is a record that's already in our catalog. It was, I don't know if you remembered or if you've seen that, but last week or week before, ta-da! I mentioned that one of our instructors had recently released a book entitled Spider Woman. I searched for that book using the ISBN number found on the back and also on the verso of the title page. I looked for that both in OCLC and in the Library of Congress catalog. It wasn't in either one. So that told me we'd have to create a new record. And our cataloger, one of our catalogers, did do so. Now, she created the record in our CIRCE local system, in our integrated library system using our cataloging module. She didn't have anything to base it on. Ms. Gutierrez had not previously published something that was available through the Library of Congress or OCLC, so her name had not been authorized. She didn't have any other publications. This publication was issued as a jointly in both English and Spanish. It has what's called a parallel title because the title appears in two languages on the cover page, on the title page. So what you see is the bibliographic record that our cataloger created. She included a 1XX field, in this case a 100 field because Ms. Gutierrez is an individual, so it's the personal name field. If you remember your copy cataloging cheat sheet, it lists the major fields that are used in most bibliographic records. for books. And the 245 field, area 8, in our 8 areas, it's area 1, title and statement of responsibility. So there are certain rules according to ACR 2 when you have a parallel title, and that would mean a title in a second language on the title page. It's input as other title information. You use the punctuation of an equal sign, okay? So then there's a convention of creating an added title entry. That's in the 246 field. But in RDA, and this record was created for RDA level cataloging, you use the 264 field, not the 260 field. And that is what our cataloger did. You still input the 300 field, but you'll notice now that you're not using abbreviations as were prescribed in ACR2. You are spelling out almost everything in RDA cataloging standards, okay? Your emphasis in RDA is to catalog as you see it, okay? So then we have our notes field built with bilingual text with poems in English and Spanish on facing pages. Then we have some subject headings, and you'll notice that the indicators are blank 0, 650, blank 0. Okay, you'll notice that this is American poetry for this second subject heading. There's a subfield X for the topical subdivision, Mexican American authors. There's a subfield X for the subdivision bilingual. The other two subject headings, Mexican American poetry, Spanish language materials bilingual. The 910 field is specific to the CIRCE cataloging product. It is additional information about the item in hand, and this particular item was donated to us by the author. Okay? The last field is a 949 field. In one of our earlier content folders, I indicated that 949 is reserved. I think it was in the MARC Record 2 instructions. I said do not transcribe any 949 field. That is reserved for bibliographic utilities or vendors such as CIRCE, and it's used within our cataloging system to give us additional information. In the subfield H, we gave the local system information about which icon to display to tell the patron looking at a list, oh yeah, that's a little book icon. So this is a printed text-based item. In subfield I, we have what is called our barcode. That is used within our circulation module to allow a patron to check out that unique item. Subfield P and subfield U pertain to local information. Subfield U specifically about inputting the word when this record was created. Okay, so we looked at an item that exists as if we were going to edit it. So all of these fields are active. We could have changed content in them. We didn't do that, and we don't want to touch anything else, so I'm closing the record. Do you have any questions about that, Roz? I'm also going to continue working in CIRCE. Okay, so here, what we want to do now is to add an item because I want you to see what the work form looks like. A blank work form. Okay, let me close this. Okay, so if I click add an item, I don't want to look for anything right now. Okay, so okay, I'm sorry. I was adding item. I want to add a title. I apologize. This is because I don't do it every day. This is a template that will allow our catalogers to decide what kind of item they are going to create. They're going to create a MARC record, okay? They're going to use the template that we have, the default template. They're going to use the Library of Congress classification. Most of what we add are books, but we do add databases and DVDs, etc. Most of the time, items we add are for our San Marcos branch or our San Marcos location. There are other locations, and this is information that's profiled into our integrated library system. But within the cataloging module, we use this template to get us started to create a bibliographic record. So if I accept the template, okay. So if I say OK, I get that blank screen. Now, is this looking at all familiar to you? Are you thinking, gee, it kind of looks like a books tagging form, doesn't it? Well, maybe you don't think so. I think it looks like the books tagging form. Okay. Okay. Are you not able to see that? Oh, yeah. No, not so far. Okay. I'll go to Blackboard and try to get it through our course information link. Okay. Mark worksheet books tagging form. Let's see, does this display? Oh, I don't know if it's going to display. See a blank page. What about now? Yeah, I think it still goes to. Are you still seeing a blank page? Ross, I'm sorry. You're our only participant tonight, so unfortunately I'm going to call in your name quite a bit. So you're still seeing that blank page. Okay. I am going to have to just toggle back here. Okay, stop sharing. Start sharing. Okay. One more time. Yay, I think you see it now. Yes. Oh. Finally, so this books tagging form, you can see that it just has, whoa, it has essentially what you have in the Circe form. Okay? Now the order of the fields is slightly different. There is a reason why the 856 field appears first here. First, we have what we call fixed fields that are very similar to the presentation of MARC record in the OCLC bibliographic utility. In true MARC, the information in these grayed out fields is found in the 006 and the 008 fields, which are called the leader, and it's just coded information about that tells computers, it tells these machines what to expect, how to display the information that will follow, okay, and the nature of the information, if it's going to be about books, about magazines, about DVDs. It may not seem to matter that much today, but that's because we live in a Web 2.0 world of automation. And in earlier times, the computers weren't sophisticated enough to really understand the variety of content that would be reflected within coded information on computers. So the rest of the fields are primarily in what's called MARC record order. Okay, so it's straight numerical order except in a few instances. Okay. Down here you'll see it goes from 504 to 505 to 507 to 520 to 590. When these fields display in a MARC record, either on the Library of Congress page or within OCLC, there is a different order, okay, because the notes have a certain order in which they're presented to users based on rules in ACR2. How could this possibly matter? It's the minutia that makes systems work so well together. So if you are searching for a record in a library system that's produced by Cersei Dynex, or you're searching for records in the catalog at San Diego County Library, which uses a different vendor, you'll still see the information in the same way. You'll see notes about performance, notes about bibliographic references, notes such as summary information in a specific order. Okay? In the MARC field, that's not exactly in numeric order. So then we go on to the 6XX fields, which are subject fields, whether they're a name is a subject, okay? 610, a corporate entity is a subject, 611, a conference name, 630, a title, and the classic 650. 650 being subject heading, 650 blank 0 specifically the Library of Congress subject heading, okay? So in our books tagging form, it looks a little different, but it's essentially the same. For our exercises, both the cataloging project and MARC Record 3 and 4, you'll be using these forms. But in the real-life experience environment, you'll probably use an automated or electronic version of this, similar to what I've just showed you in Cersei Dynex. Similar to content that you've seen for MARC records, if we scroll down to the bottom, after the 6XX fields, we get the 7XX, which are for the added entries. Again, 700, names, personal names, corporate names, conference names. Then we have some fields, again, out of order, 538, 502. These are fields that are used quite a bit with formats such as ebooks, with formats such as DVDs, okay? Certain types of materials or formats use specific MARC fields that are not found in the general book record. In our book tagging form, we didn't specify what the 5XX fields were. But as part of your project, the cataloging project, you will have to provide at least one non-book format record, which means you'll have to use, some of you, the 538 field. And in the week 12 content folder release, you had a link for cataloging icky things, which deals with non-book formats, okay, and there's content in the folder as well. So if I look at Cersei Dynex, it ends up with the 020 and the 022 fields. These are the MARC fields that correspond to standard numbers. Standard numbers include things like ISBN, ISSN, okay? There are some other numbers that can be used to search things like DVDs or sound recording, and there's another one, I can't think of it right now. But they appear at the end of this MARC template, okay, for a new book, because Area 8 is the last area of bibliographic description according to ACRT. Okay, and that's why it's kind of out of order. That's part of it. Okay, so now moving from there, I am going to go to OCLC. Okay, right now my session had timed out, so I go back in. I'm going to log on, and I'm going to show you what the blank work form looks like in OCLC. So if we were going to catalog and we were going to start from scratch, scary thing, we would click the link that says Create. We would be asked to use a template, and we would want the MARC template, and we would probably be doing a book, but we could do any of these other formats. But when you select a format, the fields that you're given will be specific to that format. Okay? So now you see the MARC tags for new records. You'll see the 040 appears before the 020, followed by 041, 050, 090, and 049. So there are some little oddities as well in the display for a MARC template within OCLC. Now, if I take my book, Spider-Woman, La Mujer Araña, and I wanted to catalog this now for OCLC, I would need to begin putting in data. I could start by typing in the ISBN number, okay? But actually, I might actually have to start up here, because you start at the top in most of our Western culture. We read from left to right, and we usually read from top to bottom, okay? So we would have to fill out these fields. There's always help available for the various fixed fields. A form of a field be BKS, the form of material being described, okay? Is it large print? Is it Braille? Is it online? Okay. If applicable, one character code, input standard. So, okay, hold on there. Okay. So the form for books, oops, I lost my little help field. Not required if applicable. So you could put BKS, no, that doesn't work, okay? So in terms of knowing what to put in, you have to be familiar with the regulations for OCLC. OCLC has its own version of MARC because apparently even with the fixed fields, remember, it's 006 and 008, that is input a little differently. But for our purposes, we're not going to explore that. We're only going to deal with putting in the information we know from the 8 areas of bibliographic description. In this case, we're starting with area 8, and that's 020, which is for, you can always find out what it is, Hear and Help. It reminds you that it's for the standard International Standard Book Number. And I look at my chief source of information. And in this case, I'm typing in 978-146-75-62669. And I go on to the next field, 041. But here, I type in my symbol, and every OCLC member library has a symbol. In the old days, when there weren't as many libraries, all the symbols were 3 characters. Today, there are quite a few that have 5 characters. If you look at the 040, I'm sorry. If you look at the 040, this is what I was referring to with the 3 versus 4 characters. The 050 would be for a Library of Congress call number, but only the Library of Congress can input a call number in this area. I would need to input my call number as a member library in an 090 field or an 092 field. Okay, so I'm going to input PS 3607. Okay, subfield B is point U H5. Okay, S65 2013. Now, I can always put in help. I'm not too sure, did I input that correctly? Because it's not every day most of us do new records, so it would be typical. Now, it tells you to display in the record and print as. So if you want the call number to display with the 0 in a certain place here, you have to input it either after the B, before the subfield B, etc., etc. Okay? So depending on how your library is configured, that is what will happen when you print the record. This doesn't matter to that many libraries because it's not so much sharing the call number that's important, it's sharing the bibliographic specifics, the 8 areas of description, the main and added entries if there are any, and any related subjects. The call number is important, but many libraries choose to change the call number of records that they've identified based on the practice that they have locally. Okay, are you still hanging in there with me, Ross? Okay, so scrolling down for 1XX field, this happens to be 100, okay, 1 blank, and then her last name first. Here it is. Okay. Her first name is Sonia. And subfield 4, not too sure about that. Oops. And this may seem tedious, but really it is the practice when you don't have as much experience, okay? And when you are doing original cataloging. Subfield 4 is the relator code. It is an optional entry, but this is part of the RDA standard, is that any name information, you're trying to relate a person to a role regarding the creation of the content of the item. So, subfield 4, you would put in information such as, scroll down here a little bit, the relator code, okay, an organizer, an author, a composer, okay. This is something that's controlled by the Library of Congress, and in order to know which relator to use, if you couldn't remember exactly how to do that, okay, you'd have to go to the relator code list within the Library of Congress. And I believe it is AUTH for author. Let's see. Okay, I'm not going to waste your time here tonight. Let me put AUTH, because there is a function within that asks us to validate a record, okay? So part of the action that we could take is to save our record, and then also we could validate it eventually, where the system will check to see, this doesn't fit the standards, and now the standard is RDA. So there's a certain amount of verification that will happen. RDA is the standard for inputting data. MARC is the standard for where to input that content, which fields, which subfields, and the punctuation and the content is controlled now by RDA. I showed you this just to give you a sense of what this bibliographic work form looks like. But quite often when you're working on a new record, you're not quite ready to finalize the content, time to go home. What you want to do is go ahead and save the record. So if I select yes, I save what I've already created, and it's saved in a particular file. Okay, the save file, pound PCLTP, that stands for Palomar College Library Technology Program, and it's record number 1. Okay, so it kind of looks like what I have here. You'll notice that there is not yet an OCLC number because I have to actually upload that content. In order to come back to my content within OCLC, I would go to search, I would select save file, and I would have to input my number. Okay, in this case, I'm just going to do my status and my search. Okay, and in fact, I had already begun working on this last time I worked with students. Okay, so I have the ability to look at the content that I had created. And if you look at the next record, you see I had gotten a little further. Okay, I didn't have a relator code here. I have this information. Okay, and you'll notice that this is very similar to what I saw in Cersei for modified title. Okay, I'm here, and you'll notice now that matches what our cataloger had done. In the past, this information was abbreviated. Now you're asked to transcribe it as it's found on the item. So all I did really was show you what it looks like to catalog from scratch and to catalog when you're doing copy cataloging within the Cersei utility. I reminded you that it's similar to what you do if you are a member of OCLC and you have access to their cataloging system. And I also pointed out that what we are doing in our LT 110 class is using these tagging forms in order to create new or edited bibliographic records using source data. Okay. The other thing that I want to cover tonight, just briefly, is there an option? Okay, Roz, I'm looking at your question. Is there an option to help with this input? With the OCLC input, yes, there is. The Connexion tutorial that I have referred to before for searching, there is a link for OCLC searching as well. And I will go here. Okay. So if I wanted to get help, I can look for help, bibliographic record, mark, template, edit view, find bibliographic records, quick search from record view, or save file, create bibliographic records, save bibliographic records. So did you see how I clicked on the help link, upper right-hand side of the screen once you logged into OCLC Connexion? And then it brings up a pop-up window because this is what's referred to as contextual help. So it's helping you in the point that you are working, where you're working in their system. Okay? You get a different help screen if you were in the authorities file. You get a different help function when you bring up, when you click on one of the functions menus and you select help. That is contextual. I selected help from the 040 screen, and that is specifically the help that I received. Does that answer your question, Ron? Yes, good. Very good. Okay. Now, for tonight, through those. And okay, I wanted to do some searching for media items, which is a little different because with media items, I'm clicking on search. Oh, have you ever seen one of these? Okay, this is not the 33C, what do they call it? Long playing albums, okay? This is what's known as a laser disc, very old technology, kind of like a VHS. If you've ever, no, not a VHS, it's like an 8-track tape, okay? So this once upon a time was cutting edge technology. It's kind of shining. I don't know what the kind of eerie is. I'm watching it in the reflection here. So if I wanted to actually work with this to create a bibliographic record, this particular item has an ISBN. It was once a part of our catalog. It's been withdrawn. But these things existed, and there were many ways to access them, and there were some specific ways to create bibliographic records for video recordings, for sound recordings, for electronic content, for serials. And this week you need to review those items because part of your cataloging project is to catalog an audiovisual item, okay? One of the 4 items you catalog must be an must be a non-book format. So this isn't the kind of format you have around it. I want you to use something current. So probably an electronic resource would be good, like a website. But I think the best way to really maximize your learning is to try to search for DVD. I bring this here to show you that even though this had a unique identifier, and I'm going to type in the ISBN search, whoops, 0538 642, whoa, 642 416. Okay, can you just hold on a second here? I'm going to pause my video for just 1 second. Excuse me. I did this recording in my office, and usually I close the door because our facility staff or maintenance staff come in the evening, and so I've forgotten to do that, and I think I hear them coming. Okay, so then after I type in the number, I want to make sure that I select ISBN, and I click search. Well, guess what? Even though that's a valid ISBN number, I can't find any match to that number. So then I have to try to do a name and title search or do a title search. I'm going to search with the title for the series, which is Communication 2000. Okay, and this particular item is Module 9, and it's entitled Communicating with Customers. Oops, I'm sorry. So I'm going to type title for this. And I'm going to type Communicating Customers. And then I'm going to try search again. This is really frustrating. So Communication 2000, I know that's part of the name because it's a series of items, okay, entitled Communication 2000, and there were individual pieces that people could purchase. Usually you purchase the set. So I'm going to change the other item to a keyword. Okay. That didn't work because when your unique identifier isn't successful, it takes a lot more work. So I'm going to search Communication 2000, Module 9, and actually I get a match. Then I have a list of results. In this particular case, there are only 9 records, and I'm trying to match what's in the record with what I have in hand. And my copy of this shows me that it is published in 1996 by Southwestern Educational Publishing. Okay, so it says here, Southwestern Educational Publishing. Number 1 had 1996. Number 3 had a different agency, publisher rather, Agency for Instructional Technology perhaps. The entire title doesn't appear. It was published in 1996, and it shows according to this heading that the cataloging was done by the National Library, specifically D for DLC. So I could look at this record, record 3, okay, it's for a learner's guide. I could look at number 1, which is for part of the kit, which is in fact what I had. And if I go to that record, it says in the 245, Communication 200, that's the valid title, okay. Now, I looked for Module 9. The reason that I was able to match this record to Module 9 is because there's information about that in the 505 field, which is the contents field. So Module 9 was communicating with customers. Now it got the information, Module 9, but communicating with customers, when I searched originally, I searched its title. So it's a lot harder to find information when we don't have the unique identifier. And this used to be the case with audiovisual materials or ebooks, but now there's been so much standardization with these formats that quite often we're able to make matches to specific records. And now I'm going to try to find the record for Denzel Washington's flight. This particular item is sold by the vendor and packaged with a Blu-ray and a DVD within one package, okay? And I have a lot of information here, title, author, performer, director, and how I proceed is based on RDA or ACR2, and then the fields that are needed are specific to the format, okay? But I can search using some unique numbers that are available for the record. Okay, I just have to find it in my particular record. I think it's on the sleeve. So it's a little hard to read. I found it earlier. I did search for this, I think. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Staring me in the face. There's an ISBN. Ta-da! Proof of purchase. But there's also underneath what we refer to as that UPC code, a product code that businesses use. But let's first try to search it using our ISBN number. Yeah, I sure hope I find it. 14157695532. I thought I searched it on here. Maybe I searched it. Library of Congress, I think so. Only 3 records, so it's pretty straightforward. But what happens when we know that most of the time the Library of Congress does not catalog DVDs or audiovisual items? Sometimes they do. First of all, we have to match the record to what we have in hand. And there was a list of 3 items. The first one has 12 holdings attached, because anytime a record isn't generated by the Library of Congress or some other national library, we're looking for how many libraries trusted this record enough to add their holdings. The first one has 12. The second one has 97, and the third one has 147. Now, are they all the same? I'm not sure. I have to look at each one, perhaps, to find that out. So I'll start with number 3. I'll start from the end. And you'll notice here, remember I said it has the most holdings, but I'm looking to see if this is the same as what I have in my hand. And I want something that has both the DVD and the Blu-ray. This particular item says Blu-ray, high definition, doesn't mention that there's any DVD in the packaging. But remember I mentioned, excuse me, that the order of notes fields is determined by the rules of Anglo-American cataloging, or RDA, Resource Description and Access. So even though the marked numbers are not in numerical order, they are in the correct order for this format. And in the folder for your week 12, you'll notice that I sent you to some resources in Cataloger's desktop, one of which talks about the order of notes. There's also a very, very okay, cut stop. This is a resource that I placed in the folder in the Blackboard course in the past. It's not there right now, but I'll probably add it before the weekend. System requirements field, this is the order of notes. So a 538 note goes first. A 500 note when it pertains to the nature, scope, or artistic form, followed by a 546 note, which has to do with language information. And if we go back to our OCLC record, we'll notice 538 note was first, and 538 note has to do with, okay, the system requirement, meaning it's a Blu-ray. You need a Blu-ray player. So this is all specific to that. And even though it has this additional language information, it's really the 546 field that is the correct place to verify the language is provided. And if you read the additional information both on the piece and on the container, it has information about the languages, okay? And it states that there are subtitles in English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, but really this kind of doesn't matter because this is not the right record for the item we have. However, you should keep track of this record. I'm going to do back to go to record number 2 to see if perhaps this is the right record. Aha! 2-box, 2-disc set, 2 video discs. Blu-ray disc contains the feature film in high definition and a selection of special features. DVD video disc contains only the feature film in standard definition. So this may be actually the record that matches what we have in hand. Okay. There are all these additional fields pertaining to content. Okay. DVD, when you look at the 538 field, there were two of them, one for the Blu-ray and one for the DVD. In this particular record, the cataloging agency, which was JBL, I don't know who JBL is. Okay, I can find that out, but we're not going to stop to do that right now. They input a 500 field first, saying that the Blu-ray disc contains the feature. Seems to duplicate other information, or it seems to be the wrong tag. But if you look at this information, I think this record matches the item we have in hand. The reason I said we don't want to discard the original record that we looked at first, I'll tell you in a minute. If we look at record 1, just to make sure, maybe record 1 is a better record. Slide 1 video disc. Nope, we don't want that one. We want the record that talks about the 2 discs. So it looks like record 2 is what we need to match our cataloging. In order to use this to do copy cataloging, we will select record 2. However, we want the information that's found in record 3. Why? Because I can tell you that this particular member library code is very important when you are cataloging items that are audiovisual items, okay? Because TESMT stands for Midwest Cataloging, and they are, why, it used to show who these are. We used to be able to see. Yeah, I'm not sure why it's doing that. But I'm going to do display holding over here to view, because that will let me see who input this record. TESMT is the OCLC member symbol, okay? But in order to see who that member is, I have to display the holding. And when I scroll down and find TESMT in the list, that's actually from Ohio. Oops. Oh, darn it. Okay, good. Okay, did I lose my... Okay. I may have lost what I was looking for. Yeah, I'm going to have to bring it up again. Sorry. Display holding. You'll notice that it pops up a new option above the blue bar, and I have to make sure to select all holding, click display holding, gives me this new pop-up window. I'm scrolling down till I can find TESMT, and if I put my cursor on there, TESMT, it tells me that the cataloging agency is Midwest Tape. Midwest Tape is OCLC, one of OCLC's contract cataloging partners, so they are a very trusted source for any cataloging that pertains to audiovisual resources, okay? So when you see TESMT on a record for audiovisual, you can always use that as a pattern record. You have to attach your holdings. If you were an OCLC member, you're supposed to attach your holdings to an existing record, not just use it for your local system, but share with other members of the OCLC bibliographic utility that you own this title. So I would use this record and then make sure that my notes kind of coincide with that. Do you remember that we looked at record 2 and they had a note in the 500 field? Let's go back. Their note in the 500 field was Blu-ray disc contains the feature film in high def, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Is that an extraneous field? It looks like that information is duplicated in the 538 here. Okay. And and then a selection of special features. Let me see if that appears somewhere else. Okay. In the TEFMT record. Okay. There's no such 500 general note. You could include it, but I wouldn't include it in the first place. Because if I look at the order of notes from this resource, this is Kutztown University, order of notes in bibliographic records, nature, scope, or artistic form, that's not what this pertains to. You could say it's nature or scope, but I wouldn't have added that field. I would remove it from the record if I were doing copy cataloging, using record 2 to match what I have, an item that contains both a Blu-ray and a standard DVD format. I would use record 2. I would take the notes that I find in record 3 by TEFMT. I would match it as long as the content, the information is the same. I would take this information. You'll notice there's a 511 field. It comes before the 508. If we look at our order of notes, 511 statements of responsibility not included in the 245, essentially. 500, 511, 508. Statement concerning edition and history. So the 500 field can be repeated many times in a bibliographic record. This may be a little dry tonight, but I actually love this part because cataloging audiovisual materials has been an adventure. If you look at the webinar, it says cataloging icky things, okay? And it also encouraged people that if you can catalog a book, you can catalog anything. You can catalog a globe. You can catalog a laser disc, okay? It's a matter of following the rules and inputting the data into the correct field. Excuse me. So getting back to the TEFMT record, you can look at these subject headings, and you can see that these are Library of Congress subject headings. And if you go back to the record that you're actually going to use as your source, you can edit that record to have the right field. Now you can see the difference here. They have 2 of the Library of Congress records. Then they Library of Congress subject headings. Then they have the 655s, which are genre headings, but with subfield 7, okay, or rather indicator 7. That means that was the source as specified in subfield 2. Okay, so the source as specified in subfield 2 was the Library of Congress GFT. Okay. You don't really need that. Library of Congress genre format. You can keep these. Some libraries always add a genre heading. Some libraries always delete genre headings. So if you go to the TEFMT record, record number 3, they also had genre headings. But you'll notice that they had a third 650 field. They have these 2 650 fields with indicator 2, the value in indicator position 2 of 7. These appear to be Spanish language subject headings. BIDX, I believe, is the Spanish language subject heading resource by Bex. Okay? So the reason that you'll probably have these records is because, remember, TEFMT is a contract cataloging agency. They do high-quality cataloging, but they catalog for many different institutions, organizations. Some of those organizations may want Spanish language subject heading, and that is probably why you see it in this record. You would not include that for your copy catalog record if you were cataloging such an item for your cataloging project. You would need to remove all of those 650 blank 7 headings. You could keep the 655, but I would expect you to explain to me that you're keeping them because your library uses genre headings. But continuing down, you go to the 7XX headings, which are for added entries, and you'll notice that the entry had a title as the main entry. And we know that because the 245 has first position 0, second position 0. Okay, first indicator position 0 means that the title is the main entry. Okay, and most often with media like this, the for film, the main entry is the title. It's not the case for sound recordings because an artist, a solo artist or a band is considered the primary person responsible and that the album doesn't stand alone. Whereas you might refer to Flight as a Robert Zemeckis production, but you think of the title and that's the movie that stands out. The Godfather is associated with Mario Puzo, associated with Marlon Brando, with Al Pacino, or Robert De Niro, but it stands alone as an entity, an item. So most of the time, films are are entered with the main entry of the title. That is something that is controlled or determined by the rules in ACR2 and now RDA. You're not going to remember all of this. You need to understand which source to use to guide your understanding. When you're doing copy cataloging, you want to remember that, I better check that. I better make sure this name is correct. I better make sure that I have all the information I need. Because when you are working with names, you have to use the authority file in your copy cataloging to check to see if this is the right form of name. Because it's linked in OCLC, you can click on the record. Zemeckis, that is the correct form of name. Zemeckis, Robert, subfield V for the dates that this person operated, and he was born in 1952. He's still alive, so it's an open entry. Okay, we could have put a relator code, but we didn't have one here. If you go to the top of the record, you'll see that this was input recently. They could have in 2002, and I'm sorry, 2012. December of 2012, so they could have put that. It was updated or replaced in 2013 in February, so they could have put a relator code here because that's the new standard. If we go back to the record that we're actually using to do our copy cataloging, we look at this and you'll see that they actually did use relator codes. And DRT, subfield 4 for the relator code. DRT is for the director. And you'll see that ACT was for the actor. PRO for the producer. AUS, I don't know who that is. Author of the screenplay, perhaps, I'm not sure. But if I were to actually click on the link that says John Datton, that would allow me to use OCLC's authority file. It should have clicked through. Okay, let me try it with Mr. Cheadle. Okay, it was just down where I couldn't see it. So let me close that. That's Mr. Cheadle. Okay, still Mr. Cheadle. Okay, let's try it now. Was the one we wanted to, okay, Mr. Gatton. Okay, so he's a screenwriter. When it doesn't give us a relator code, we can use the help file here Okay, so if we go across to the functions menu and select help, we get contextual help. And subfield 4 is the relator code. And remember, it told us that we had to go for relator code information somewhere else. Relator form. The designation of functions describes the relationship between name and a work. Okay. Put multiple relator terms in separate subfields. Okay. Subfield E, production. Now, there's also, as you scroll further down, you see that subfield 4 appears a 3-character code that indicates the relationship of a name to a word. And we went here before, but it didn't really put multiple relator codes. So it's similar to subfield 4. Okay. Field index. Okay. Relator code. Okay. Term sequence, code sequence, list maintenance. Okay, I'm not sure why that's been reorganized. Okay, but we came here before. This is not what I have seen in the past. I apologize, but okay, there we go. So we were looking for AUS, and it's authored screenplay. So a lot about cataloging today requires a lot of attentiveness, and it's very hard to know what's coming next. And yet it's kind of exciting because there's change, and the change that we're seeing is to make things more useful to users of different library systems. We mentioned, I showed you tonight, the CIRCE cataloging module. I showed you how to use a blank work form in OCLC. I showed you how to search and select audiovisual materials using OCLC. I also discussed RDA, once again going through Ferber, trying to reinforce WAMI, work, expression, manifestation, item, because this is where anyone in the field of library science today, library technology, has to look forward to what's going on in the standards for cataloging. And so it's very important, even if you don't see it in your local system today, because currently the CIRCE system that I showed you won't allow us to input some of the fields that are specific to RDA. The 336, 337, and 338 fields cannot be input on our blank work form. Okay? The 264 can be input. However, as RDA is becoming the standard, integrated library system vendors are introducing new platforms, and yes, they're going to allow us to add those fields after we upgrade our current system, just a release, no additional money. But they've begun offering new systems which are referred to as library service platforms by some librarians, okay? And that is to emphasize that we live in a Web 2.0 world. And what's important for libraries is to provide a platform for users to get the information they need, to locate information using our catalog, and being able to move from the catalog to a database, move from the catalog to a free web resource, move from the catalog to a streaming media collection. So that is why the new systems are being referred to as library service platform. I love doing what I did. I hope that this is going to be very helpful to you as you prepare your cataloging projects. There's a lot more reading this week. There's a lot of information you have to prepare. Record Mark Record 3-4 combinations, and that explanation will be in this week's content folder. You need to prepare for your test 1, which will be released this week. And there are some of you who will be doing an article review. So thank you so much, Roz, for attending tonight. I wish we had more people, but hopefully someone will look at the resource and be able to look at the recordings and be able to use it for their cataloging project. I still have many people who haven't contacted me in terms of finalizing what items that they're going to catalog. If you are doing a cataloging project, you will be able to do 3 items and then use the one of those 3 items, one of the 2 book items, so 2 books and a non-book format, and then you can use one of your book items to create an RDA record. Ooh, okay, so that's more challenging. You'll have to make sure that you use the RDA regulations. You'll have to make sure that you provide the RDA fields, and I have a separate work form that I've added on your course information link from Blackboard. So good night, everyone. Thank you, Roz, for sticking in there with me, and thank you to the captioner. I really appreciate it. So have a good night, everyone, and next week, maybe the last week, we'll see. So please do contact me about your cataloging project, and if you have questions. My apologies for the confusion about the Mark 3 and 4 record assignments, but trying to keep all the balls up in the air. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.